I'd like to call the meeting of the Opelika City Council of May 19th, 2020 to order. Call roll, please. Mr. Jones.
Ms. Jones.
Here.
Ms. Pitts.
Here.
Mr. Smith-T.
Here.
Mr. Cannon. Here. Mr. Smith.
Here. We're going to be led in the invocation this evening by Ms. Jones and followed by the pledge led by Mr. Jones. If you all will stand, please.
May we pray together. Lord, thank you for this day. And thank you for the opportunity for our coming to do thy work. We ask that you bless this meeting and bless each one of us individually and collectively as we do thy will. And Lord, continue to bless our first responders and all of our essential workers. And may your will be done. We ask that you provide through thy people a cure for this virus. Lord, let us keep you in the midst of what we do tonight. And what we do tonight will be used for thy kingdom and to grant great communities in the city of Opelika and all over this world. We ask in your Son, Jesus' name, this prayer. And thee I pray. Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Ms. Jones, you all have previously received a copy of the minutes of the May 5th, 2020 meeting. Is there a motion to accept?
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Having none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Mr. President, members of the council, feels funny not looking at you all. Guess I can look at Ricky. Have a few items before I invite Mr. Motley to come with the building permit report, and we present an award to Ricky Elliott, president of the Opelika Kiwanis Club. First, I want to thank the Pro Tem Patsy Jones for getting us involved in the recognition yesterday of our senior class at Opelika High School. Thank you, Patsy, and Tiffany, and David, Dozier, and Eddie for all being there. Dozier got to ride in this because he's got a senior this year. But I think a good time was had by all, and it was a lot of fun for all of us that were there. So thank you, Patsy, for doing that. Thanks to Lee Creeling for the signs, and Becky for helping us get organized. Opelika City Schools, as y'all will recall, is part of the Education Committee of the Crime Commission under the leadership of the Pro Tem Patsy Jones. Opelika City Schools applied for 5 units of first-class pre-K, but following a budget cut, the state today awarded 2 first-class pre-Ks for the upcoming school year. And we had asked for 5, and it could be that we may get 1 more, depending if some of the systems do not want to participate. Greater Peace will again have at least 2 first-class pre-Ks, and there will be 2 first-class pre-Ks at the depot. So a total of 6 first-class pre-K classrooms for the 2020-2021 school year. So, Patsy, again, thank you, and the Education Committee as part of the Crime Commission for doing that. Each of you at your desk, council members, have code cases opened by districts from the end of March through May the 19th, which is today, and you can see it broken out by district and what each of those cases involve. At last council meeting, Councilwoman Pitts asked about a right-of-way map for the city, and we don't have a right-of-way map except for a city map, because the city owns the right-of-way on every road and street within the corporate limits of the city of Opelika. So, the question has to do, I think, with, cutting the right-of-ways, and Mr. Gunner, excuse me. Got Ms. Jones and Mr. Jones, we got too many Joneses. Mr. Gunner sent the council a letter today, and Guy, Ms. Pitts had asked if this was for subdivisions only, but it's for any right-of-way, I believe.
It is.
Okay.
Now, of course, there are some exceptions in the weed ordinance. For example, all property in its natural state, property that has never been developed, the provisions of the weed ordinance do not apply to those kinds of properties. So, and there's a lot of property that never has been developed in Opelika that's still in its natural state.
The city's financial summary, each of you have that at your desk. As always, if you have questions, don't hesitate to contact me or Cindy Boyd or Joey, and we'll be glad to talk with you about it. And speaking of the administrator, Joey, I'd like you to come forward and present the April 2020 monthly building report.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The April report, we had a total of $10,149,659.70. Again, that's driven by new single-family homes. It was 27 additional. Brings our year-to-date total to 210 new single-family homes at $53,445,390.79 for a yearly total of $68,645,410.29. Continue to see strong growth in that area, and it's just really not letting up. So that's all good news.
Thank you, Joey. Ricky, would you come up and join me, please? Try to keep our distance if we can. Folks, this is Ricky Haggard, who is president of the Opelika Kiwanis Club. And Ricky, I want to congratulate you and the Kiwanis Club. You got one of your former past presidents sitting right there. And are you just coming in, or are you just going out? You just coming in?
This is October.
Oh, y'all started in October. Now, Guy, you know that the Kiwanis Club is the second oldest civic club in the city of Opelika.
I did know that.
Y'all formed in 1920. You know, there's one other club that was formed in 1990. That would be the Opelika Rotary, which is Mr. Cannon and Mr. Gunner, and Mr. Michael and myself, and Mr. Smith, as members of the Rotary. But tonight, Ricky, we want to honor and recognize your great civic club. The Kiwanis Club of Opelika was established in April 1920, and since that day, countless people in our communities have been touched by the effort of your members. And being a member of Kiwanis provides a practical means to form enduring friendships, to render altruistic service, and to build better communities. And whereas over the last 100 years, the Opelika Kiwanis Club has supported projects as wide-ranging as Future Farmers of America, the speaking contestants, programs for newborn infants, the Opelika High Key Club, treatment for children in Warm Springs, Georgia, highway signs, and band programs. The Opelika Kiwanis Club has shown their devotion of raising money for the community by continuing to host annual fundraisers such as Kiwanis on the Air and continuing to support the 4th of July fireworks show. Both still ongoing after 6 years. We're going to take a hiatus this year on the fireworks, but we'll be back better than ever next year. And whereas the weekly meetings have featured such celebrities as General George S. Patton, former Governor Bob James, Coach Shug Jordan, and Medal of Honor recipient, Command Sergeant Major, retired Benny Atkins. So now, Ricky, on behalf of the City Council and the City of Opelika, I want to express to you our deep appreciation, and by virtue of the authority vested in me, congratulate the Kiwanis Club. And Lori, you was a Kiwanis, and she in good standing on attendance.
I'm probably a little.
Okay, excuse me. Okay. And proclaim Tuesday, May 19th is Opelika Kiwanis Day. And Ricky, I want to thank you and please express our appreciation to members of this club for anything you've done.
I'm glad to be a part of it. Wonderful club, wonderful community. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Lady, you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you, Ricky. General business, Mr. Jones?
First item under general business is a request from Main Street for a street closure for their event On Tap Craft Beer and Food Truck event. That's August 1st.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? Having none, call roll, please.
Ms. Jones? Ms. Pitts?
Aye.
Mr. Smith T?
Aye.
Mr. Cannon?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
All voted aye. Second item is a request for the 8th Annual Kids Triathlon at the Sportsplex on August 1st as well.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? Having none, call roll, please.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. Pitts?
Aye.
Mr. Smith T?
Aye.
Mr. Cannon?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
All voted aye.
Resolutions, Mr. Gunner?
Mr. President, the first resolution approves a travel expense report submitted by Cindy Boyd of the Accounting Department.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? Having none, call roll, please.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. Pitts?
Aye.
Mr. Smith T?
Aye.
Mr. Cannon?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
All voted aye.
The second resolution approves the renewal of the employment contract with Lori Hughley as Economic Development Director.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? Having none, call roll, please.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. Pitts?
Aye.
Mr. Smith T?
Aye.
Mr. Cannon?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
All voted aye.
The third resolution approves a special appropriation in the amount of $1,200 to the Community Foundation of East Alabama to support Opelika Giving Day.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? Having none, call roll, please.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. Pitts?
Aye.
Mr. Smith T?
Aye.
Mr. Cannon?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
All voted aye.
We have no ordinances, Mr. Gunner. We have no appointments. The character trait of the month is still patience, and we're still trying to practice that. And, we'll continue. I do think that as we move into June, we will start trying to have a more normal meeting. While still practicing social distancing, we will find out what 50% of the capacity is in case we want to open the doors back up for people to be able to do citizen communications. I know that in June, we have at least 4 public hearings on the meetings that, on the business that Matt was here talking to us about at the last meeting. So I suspect that we'll have some other folks. I think that the mayor and the administrator and Mr. Stephen Dow are working on a way to broadcast the meeting and maybe even have people be able to speak as they are trying to do in the planning commission. So they're working on that, and I think it's going to come together, and hopefully we'll be able to do the same thing, and maybe sometime in the near future we will be past the pandemic and we can go back to whatever the new normal is. Any other comments?
I do have one. Oh, you go ahead.
Mr. Vance, the Relay for Life team is still trying to do a virtual meeting, and they were wanting to know if we could turn the bouncing purple, and I think they're thinking about June 5th. And put us down and see can we work with the city. So I
Yeah, I do. I would like to go back to the request for the right-of-way map. I guess I'm a bit confused. If there's no map of the right-of-way, how does ESG know where to cut? How do they know where to cut? I know I've had issues in Ward 2 with areas going uncut, and then later they do get cut after I've come to you, and I do appreciate your help, but I guess I'm a little concerned if we don't have a right-of-way map for the city, how do they know where to cut? Do they just ride around and just cut places?
They have a route that's, or areas that, the state of Alabama, here's a good example. They're supposed to cut US 431. But invariably, it winds up, we have to cut it, because the state refuses to do it. I saw grass out there almost knee high the other day. Well, it's the state, but it's a full reflection on our community. I don't know if it's been cut yet, we're trying to get the state to cut it, but, if there's a house there or property, then that property owner is responsible for maintaining it to the pavement. And it's, in most cases, it's pretty easy to tell.
Okay. Well, I would just encourage, I did reach out to other municipalities, and they do have a computer program where they can just put a street address in and all the right-of-way will come up on that particular street. So that may be something that the city of Opelika would like to do in the future, so that we can tell where the right-of-way is. Because, you know, I know a lot of times I'm sure you get tired of me sending you emails about different places that need cut, because I get tired of sending them and riding around and getting calls on them.
Probably get tired of folks calling.
So I do. So I figure, you know, if they had a map, and so that we provided that to them, then areas wouldn't go, you know, unkept. And
They
maybe
do
they
that
can work
off
out
of-
whatever schedule that they have.
They do that off a computer system, some sort of program?
It's called ART something. It's ART something that I can provide. I can get that information and provide it.
Probably do a ride around through your ward, take about an hour and point out every parcel that needs to be cut by the property owner. And the parts that we cut by the city.
Right.
And by the way, if you noticed how good the dollar store grass looks,
I did. I noticed it. Yeah, I did.
took them long enough.
It sure did.
Anybody else got anything we need to discuss? Is there a motion for adjournment? Is there a second?
Second.
Call roll, please.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. Pitts?
Aye.
Mr. Smithy?
Aye.
Mr. Cannon?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye. I appreciate, Guy, you sending this out. This was helpful.
Yeah, those mics are a lot louder.